Good morning, everyone. I can see people are still joining, but we're going to start. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and welcome to this webinar delivered by UK Active in partnership with This Girl Can on improving your services for women as told by the 51%. This session is a follow-on from the practical guidance of the same name we released back in November. I'm Hattie Jones. I'm Head of Consumer Engagement at UK Active and worked alongside This Girl Can to develop and create the guide that we're going to be mentioning today. I'm sure, like everyone here today, we all believe sport and physical activity has a big role to play in improving the health and well-being of women and girls, and that our sector is really uniquely placed to support this. I'll be taking you through and then we'll be joined by a few others for some panel sessions, which I'll touch on later. There's a question and answer box at the top or bottom of your screen, depending on how you're set up. Please feel free to drop questions in that as we go. We'll be looking to pick those up during a Q&A at the end of the session. So, as you may know, UK Active and Sport England have a strategic partnership which covers 6 key areas. Those include digital transformation, inclusion, health and well-being, children, young people and families, infrastructure and campaigns, which is where this piece of work sits. We know the gym and fitness and leisure sector has a big role to play in activity levels of women. And so we have been working closely with This Girl Can to take their learning and help it to be applied within the setting of gym, fitness and leisure facilities. And whilst extensive research had been done into women's activity levels, there had never been before specific sort of research into the attitudes and behaviours of women and girls towards gym, fitness and leisure centres. So that is what we look to embark on. So through our partnership, we were able to commission research specifically to better understand those concerns, behaviours, motivators and perceptions of women and girls have about participating in activities in gyms, fitness and leisure centres. And how we did this was through surveys, and then from kind of the key themes within those surveys, we held focus groups to delve deeper into some of that information that we found. And both survey and focus groups were done with existing members, so current gym and fitness and leisure facility users, and non-members. And non-members were people that hadn't used a gym or fitness and leisure facility for the last 3 years. So in terms of the research identified a variety of barriers to engagement, and these we were able to categorise into 6 key themes, which helped us shape and define the recommended actions for the practical guide. So just looking at these, ability and confidence, so that was very much around personal ability, personal confidence, how women and girls felt about what they were doing or wanted to do, or if they were doing something within the gym facility. Body consciousness and judgment was very much a perceptions of what people were looking and thinking of them while they were there. Affiliation with the setting, so that was very much not feeling like they belonged. Personal safety, kind of their personal feelings of safety, kind of entering a facility, you know, from car parks, walkways, whilst also within a facility. Staff knowledge, which was very much came through as focused on staff being knowledgeable to help potentially pre and postnatal women and women going through menopause. And then practical issues, and that range from kind of flexible memberships, being able to kind of juggle work-life balance, family life, and then practical issues around, you know, where do I go when I arrive at the gym and so forth. So we wanted to ensure that beyond sharing the fresh insight, we provided the sector with guidance and tangible solutions, so really action-led to support you in getting more women and girls active within your facilities. To achieve this, the practical guide is structured in the form of an action plan, and each step within this guide considers financial, staffing and infrastructure constraints. In many cases, you may already be implementing some of these actions, and so we present the recommendations, as you will have seen, as a checklist, which can then help to reinforce the importance to engage this audience and to create long-term members. So the 5 key steps there are on the screen. So visibility and comms, online present, that first visit and sign up, that's really important, finding the right activity and then building trust. And to date, we've had over 1,200 downloads of the guide and have received really positive feedback from public and private leisure operators. We've also seen lots of national governing bodies of sport also utilise the guide, which is great. It's there, bits and pieces can be cherry picked, and if they apply to you. So today, after some feedback, we've decided to hold today's session to delve into two of the key steps mentioned, and focusing on those are finding the right activity and building trust to help bring them to life through discussion with some panel people that we've got supporting us today. So again, as I mentioned, question and answer box is there. We'll have time later after the sessions to kind of answer those, so please feel free to pop anything you want to ask us within that. So in terms of the first session, that's going to be around finding the right activity with a focus on the This Girl Can classes. And this is going to be managed and introduced by Faye from EMD UK. So I'm going to pass over to Faye now.
Morning everyone, thank you Harriet. Lovely to see so many people on the webinar this morning and some fantastic insight that we've seen through the As Told by 51% report. So today, before we go into our This Girl Can classes Q&A session with some instructors and operators that are delivering the programme already, I just wanted to share a short video of when Scarlett Moffat attended one of our This Girl Can classes. It really does show the experience and the feelings most women have before, during, and then after the classes. I'm just going to share my screen.
I'm a little bit nervous. I'm about to go into my first exercise class. I have not done group exercise for maybe 5 years or something, but I'm doing it with This Girl Can, so I'm very excited. I'll let you know how it goes.
5, 6, good. Step back. 1, 2, 3.
I am as red as a berry, thanks to this lovely lady.
Hello.
I've just finished my first This Girl Can class. This Girl Can. Honestly, I'm so proud of everyone. Like, I was proper panicking because sometimes when you're in a group, it feels like you're in competition or you're looking at other people's bodies and stuff like that. But this class is such like a varied ability and ages and shapes and sizes that you don't feel like you're in competition. Like, you're just concentrating on what you're doing and having a laugh with everyone. Like, that's what I got, like a sense of camaraderie rather than a sense of competition. But it was just fab, and it's like a muddle of stuff. So we did a bit of dancing, which I was good at, to be fair, bit of boxing, not so good at, but it doesn't matter, no one's judging anyone. And yeah, like, it's all right to be wrong in this, which is very different to what I'm used to in classes. And then we did a bit of mindfulness at the end, which was lovely, but 110% I will be coming again, because I thought I couldn't, but This Girl Can.
Brilliant. So just like Scarlett, and through the insight that we've seen in the As Told by 51% report, we know that so many women feel so self-conscious about exercising and have a fear of being judged, which prevents them from taking their first steps into exercise. So at EMD UK, we've created This Girl Can classes programme in partnership with This Girl Can to support less active women to access group exercise and break down barriers seen to them attending. So This Girl Can classes promotes the message, as Scarlett said, that it is all right to get it wrong, and it encourages women to come and just do their worst in a welcoming, non-judgmental environment. The classes offer an introduction to group exercise, different group exercise styles, with the focus of the instructor being to help to build confidence and fitness levels amongst the group, supporting them to open up other opportunities and activities that previously they thought was out of their reach. So today we're going to discuss why This Girl Can classes is a perfect fit for leisure providers to reach, engage and support more women to access their classes and facilities. And I'd like to introduce Tara, Kelly and Jasmine, who will be discussing this with me. So Tara is a This Girl Can instructor and also an assistant manager at Active Luton. Kelly is a This Girl Can instructor and delivers classes at Active Luton. And Jasmine is this Girl Can instructor and delivers classes within her local community. So welcome to you all and good morning.
Thank you.
Morning. Morning. Thank you so much for your time this morning just to talk about the programme and your own experiences after completing the training and then getting the programme up and running in your facilities. So I'm just going to jump straight in really, because I've got a few questions and themes that I would like to discuss with you. Linking back to the as told by the 51% report that we've seen. So Tara, just to start off, what attracted you to this Girl Can classes? Why was it important for Active Luton to bring that into their timetable?
I think really we had a target for women's only as well, and being a leisure provider, it's very community based in quite a lot of our centres, which have got quite a lot of underprivileged areas which we needed to try and target and get them into group fitness. We also have a lot of wellbeing classes which do a lot of weight management, so it was a good pathway from the weight management for people to come into group exercise without being worried about the barriers that you've mentioned previously, alongside the women only target that we had, and going back to the pandemic with people saying about that for the first time with online classes they got the opportunity to try something in their living rooms with no one judging them or seeing what they were doing. That concept was then really being brought into the leisure environment, so that's why I thought it was a really key area for us. It ticked all the boxes in terms of women's only pathways through the door, and from our demographic area it was a really lovely concept to try and invite people into our gyms and our leisure facilities.
Oh, brilliant. It's so true, isn't it? We know that 45% of women worry about not being fit enough to exercise and joining activity. So it's fantastic that obviously you were doing things during the lockdown, and then I've seen the opportunity to bring that kind of reassuring and welcoming environment into the studio as well. So Kelly, I know when we've spoken, you've mentioned a lot of your participants are new to group exercise. Did you find that it was the case with them that they were worrying about how fit they were and before they came and at their first class? And have you seen the confidence grow? Have you seen a change in them?
Oh, 1000%. Like the first few classes, it started off by everyone nervously coming in, standing at the back, looking at their feet on their phones, like to distract. From that to coming in, there's so much noise in the class now, there's people talking, it's got a buzz about it. Yeah, the confidence levels, where as everyone was standing at the back not looking in the mirrors, they're all coming to the front now. Everything has changed in the last 10 weeks. It's dramatic how some of the girls have become completely different people. And it's just a completely different environment to be in. I feel like it's a warm environment as well. But I definitely think that's all, that it's okay to get it wrong, it's that. And I think because I keep saying that, and because I'm an instructor that, say, the dance, for instance, I think I was very, very straight with everyone. I was like, listen, I'm not a dancer. This is going to be fun. Let's see how we get on. And I'm laughing along because I'm not a dancer, but I'm just getting on with it. So I think that they know it's not some professional coming in like you're a dancer. We're all in this together. So in that respect, but yeah, they've all become a really lovely team. And even when a new person does come in, because that does happen every week, it's like they're straight. The girls that felt unconfident at the beginning are coming over now, I'll come in with us, what's your name? It's building. It's the warmest class I've ever had to teach, without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh, fantastic. I can see Jasmine smiling as well, so I'm assuming you've had the same experience, because it's all about creating that fun environment, creating that sense of camaraderie, and everyone is in it together. So it's lovely to see that obviously come into life within your classes. So I guess, Jasmine, I know that in the training we support instructors with how to create that reassuring and welcoming environment. But how have you approached that with your sessions so that people feel welcomed right from the get-go?
I think a key element for me that really helped was social media, and that's how I got most of my participants. So obviously I'm like a independent instructor, so I don't work for a gym or anything like that with my class. So it started on Facebook and Instagram, and then I think the resources that you guys gave us were amazing. So we've got like a bank of images and text that we can put onto social media, talking about how it's okay to go the wrong way, it's okay if you don't know what a downward dog is and things like that. And I was overwhelmed by the response that I had on social media. I think I planned my classes usually get about 15, max 20 people. Within 5 days, I had 40 people booked on, which is way more than I've ever had in one of my classes before. And most of these, I would say, probably 35 of them hadn't been to a class before or not for a long time, and they were really nervous and messaging me saying, you know, is this the right thing for me? But they all came, and the atmosphere on the first day was brilliant. And because I think as well, because there were so many people all feeling the same, and I'd really kind of marketed it that way, they all felt fine coming in, and they were, you know, they're all chatting, and then I have music on as soon as they get there, so they feel welcomed, and you know, chat to them when they come in, and then explain to them that this is new for everybody. And I think they just felt welcome from the very beginning. And then really, which is really brilliant, a lot of them have actually started coming to other classes, which they never would have done. For example, like my Zumba classes, they would have always been scared by Zumba, but because they've done the dance fit in a This Girl Can, they're now like, oh yeah, of course I can do Zumba. Or my toning classes, they've came and given that a go, and now they're doing a few a week. So like the progress they've made in the confidence is just amazing. And it's all about mindset, I think, rather than their ability. And they feel they can come to lots of classes, and they've made friends. So I think it all started with social media, I do have to say, kind of from the very beginning, before they even got to class, really marketed it as kind of a first time class, and everyone's in it together.
Oh, brilliant. And it's so nice to see that they're now feel confident to go to your Zumbas, whereas before that might have felt daunting for
them. They
them.
never would have before, so it's good.
Yeah, I could see, Tara, you nodding obviously with that, because I know when we've spoken, you've said that you've seen the women that are attending This Girl Can classes try out other classes across Actively timetable.
Yeah, definitely. And a selection of classes as well. And it's quite important to note that now they'll come on their own to other classes. They don't always have to come in a group. I mean, to start with, I think at the very beginning, the girls will share the experiences that it felt like they came in little groups to handhold with each other. And now they're quite okay to go off and try a class on their own. I've got a little group of people that all came together, and now the two of them go off to Accra and another one goes off to Leg, Buns and Tums. So they come together, they leave together, but they do different types of classes. So that's been really enlightening, and it's moved on really quite quickly. So the 10 weeks, some of them haven't even had to reach the 10 weeks before they've had the confidence to go on to something else. And the banter is amazing. So, you know, with everybody having a good banter between each other, and like they said, they're very welcoming towards other people. So you get a newbie comes in, it's almost like it's group hug. The minute someone steps through the door, that other people take other people under the wing and explain it to them, and they've done the work for us.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. And I know, Jasmine, you mentioned that social media has been the best kind of channel to reach the women, and you've had quite a few people beforehand messaging you to say, is it right for me? And they're still quite unsure, I think, before they take the steps through the door. So I guess from Tara, from your point of view, working in a leisure centre, I know you've done a lot of work around empowering staff and educating staff on the programme. How did you approach that so they were able to answer those queries?
Yeah, I think that was really important and really key, because the minute we launched This Girl Can classes, everyone wanted to come to it because it was a new concept, something brand new, and everyone was like, I'm going to that class because it's a new class. And it was a lot of people trying to come through the door that had already gone to classes. Yes. So the instructors were briefed from the training course that we went on that this is really for people that are out of group fitness, whether it's due to injuries, illness, or have never been in this environment before. So they were very aware and kind of understood the concept, and because they were working in the sites already, they were able to explain to the people that were already here that it wasn't a type of class for them, but if they had any friends or relatives that were out of coming to the gym or hadn't been for a while, then this would be the environment for them. Then the next key important thing for me was the front of house and operations. So anyone that worked on reception needed to understand what the class was about, and that it wasn't just generally women's only, it was more about empowering women and getting people through the door. So I found a link on one of the This Girl Can websites that was a really informative piece of information that I sent to the group fitness instructors, front of house, the operations team, and then the front of house, if they had queries with anybody that walked in through the door, they were able to send that link on, which would then take them to your website and give more of an insight of what it was really about and who it was targeted at. And I think that was the game changer for us.
Yeah, I have to admit that worked really, really well, because I was a bit skeptical about that. I thought we were going to get our usual suspects trying to come to the This Girl Can classes, and we had to tell our regulars, you know, the girls that come every week to all our other classes. And I thought that wasn't going to work, but when Tara put that in place, it just snapped with everyone. It just clicked. People were like, "Oh right, it's not for us, it's for other people," and it did really work, really, really well.
Oh, fantastic. Although the link that you mentioned then, Tara, I will pop in. I think I can pop it into the Q&A, or I can share with Harriet after to circulate with those that are on the webinar, so you can find out a little bit more. But it's a page on the website that's just what to expect about the classes, and it just gives the information, which is brilliant. No, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. I know that we've run out of time. It's gone so fast. I've got so many more questions that I'd want to talk to you all about, but it's fantastic to see that the programme has really taken off, where you're delivering it, and the women that you're seeing come into the class are the ones that it's intended for, and you're seeing that confidence build. So for everyone else on the webinar, we have had funding extended for this programme. So EMD UK are able to support more providers with accessing the training and launching the classes, with funding towards the training and the marketing as well once you do launch. So please do get in touch with us if you'd like to add this to your timetable and get involved in the This Girl Can Classes programme. The email address is thisgirlcanclasses@emd.org, and again I can share that again with Harriet as a follow-up for everybody. So please do get in touch if you've got any questions or you'd like to discuss anything, and we can support you to bring it to your sites. I know there's a few people on the call as well that are already delivering the programme or are in conversations with. So just a reminder that we have been working a lot behind the scenes on the PR and the media campaigns to help and support driving women to the This Girl Can Classes website, and driving up awareness of the programme as well from a central point of view. So if you can't see your classes listed on the This Girl Can Classes website, please do get in touch and we can support you to upload them on there so you can benefit from the central promotion as well that we're doing. So yeah, thank you, Tara, Kelly, Jasmine. It's been lovely to chat into you.
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you.
Thank everyone.
And thank you to UK Active and Sport England as well for inviting us here today to talk about This Girl Can Classes.
Thank you, Faye. That's really good and great to hear kind of the benefits for everyone that's joining in on the classes, and their confidence growing over the last 10 weeks. So thank you everyone for that session. That was great. So just in terms of next session, so we're looking now at the building trust and creating long-term members, with the topic of women's safety and gym intimidation. So I'm going to pass over to Claire Edwards, who is co-creator of As Told by the 51%, working in the This Girl Can team over at Sport England. So over to you, Claire.
Thanks, Hattie, and thanks everyone again for joining us today for this webinar. I'm really looking forward to this next conversation. So I'm just going to quickly introduce our panelists and ask them to come off camera to join me. So we've got Tim Spires, who is Senior Policy Officer at Greater London Authority. We have Jodie Maguire, Head of Brand Communications at Pure Gym, and Emily Courtlang, Group Brand and Marketing Director at the Gym Group. So we've got a great lineup for today's conversation. This topic is called Women's Safety in Facilities and Gym Intimidation. And we really wanted to focus on this topic as step 5 in the As Told by 51% guide, to really kind of bring some of these recommendations to life and understand what the kind of changes you can expect to see on the kind of on the ground as a result of following some of these recommendations that were included in the guidance. The research that we did that backed up the guide showed that their kind of concerns over personal safety is a very real consideration that women face when being active in a fitness or leisure centre setting. With significant percentages of women mentioning that they had experienced some kind of sexual harassment, intimidation or embarrassment within facilities, as well as high percentages saying that they had taken some kind of measures to protect themselves, which included things like avoiding the gym at a certain time of day, avoiding certain areas of the gym, or saying they would only attend with a friend at certain times or certain places. So within the guidance, we did include some recommendations specifically around initiating safety policies and procedures so that women and girls can feel confident when they attend. And when developing these recommendations, we were hugely inspired by and give credit to the toolkit provided to signatories of the Mayor of London's Women's Night Safety Charter. So that leads me quite nicely into my first question to Tim, which is quite broad, but if you could tell us a little bit about the Women's Night Safety Charter, and specifically its relevance for the fitness and leisure sector.
Absolutely, thanks Claire. It's great to be here this morning with you. So just a bit of context. Yeah, I'm Tim Spies from the Greater London Authority. I work in our 24-hour London team, so working very closely with our night czar, Amy LeMay. The sort of context around the charter is, so our team, we look at everything that happens between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. That's our definition of nighttime. And the difference between us and other world cities who have nighttime advisors, night mayors, night czars, whatever you call them, is they tend to look traditionally at what you know as the nighttime economy, so bars, pubs, clubs. We have taken a more holistic view in London. So as I said, we look at everything between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. So when Amy was first appointed in 2016, we did a little bit of research because we didn't have any hard facts about London at night. So we know that London is a very safe city statistically. We also know that there are 1.6 million people who work at night regularly. There are 2/3 of Londoners who are active at night, and they're not just going down the pub. They are doing things like running errands, studying, and taking part in sports activities. Alongside the data research, we did some opinion research, which showed worryingly that a majority of women did not feel safe in London between 6 and 6. So there's a little bit of a disparity between the data and the perception, which is obviously a concern for both Amy and for the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. So with that end, we were tasked with creating a bit of policy which could help tackle this disparity, and that's where the Women's Night Safety Charter came about. It sits within the Mayor's Ending Violence Against Women and Girls strategy. It's also part of London's commitment to the UN Women, Safe Cities and Safe Public Spaces Global Initiative. And the idea was that we create a set of 7 relatively simple pledges that any organisation that operates between 6 and 6 can sign up to show their commitment to women's safety. The first of which is being nominate a champion within your business or organisation who can champion this work and take it forwards. The other 6 pledges fall roughly into the themes of communication, training for staff, and design of spaces. So yeah, we launched in 2018. We had a sort of modest handful of 40 signatories then. When I've just come off leave, so when I left, we had pushing 800. Yeah, and they range the whole range of different sectors. So your traditional bars, pubs, clubs, educational institutions, hotels, London's local authorities. And we just did a big drive working with UK Active and Sport England to try and get more representatives from the sports and fitness sector signed up. Delighted that colleagues on the panel here from the gym group from Pure Gym are signatories of the charter, which is great. But we're always looking for more signatories to be involved.
Great, thank you. I suppose obviously you're speaking from Greater London Authority, and this is a London focused initiative, but aware that there'll be people on the call from all over the country. So I guess the question is, how can organisations outside of London still adopt the principles and recommendations that are kind of included within the charter?
Yeah, I mean, the principles and the pledges are there basically. The good news sort of from the work we're doing in London, it has been noticed by other parts of the country. So a couple of weeks ago, Exeter launched their own women's safety charter. The week before, Bristol launched theirs. I know that Suffolk and Essex are looking into it, and we've had conversations with Manchester City Council as well. So you know, these other sort of more council areas, imitation is the highest form of flattery. So we're happy for other council areas to pinch it as well, and where we can work with different sectors to try and support this work. Where it's very easy to adopt.
Great. Emily, I'm going to come over to you next. The gym group were the first major 24-hour gym operator to sign up to the charter. So just interested to hear what made you want to sign up as an organisation.
Well, I guess firstly, we were really proud to be asked before it kind of launched publicly. It came about because I think Tim was having conversations with 97 March and Gym Safe Ladies as part of the programme. And we'd already been engaged with those two communities. And I guess it goes to the power of like listening to these communities and creating a network and having conversations. All those conversations lead to good things. And this was one of the good things that happened, which is that we signed up to be part of the charter. And looking now at the list of other brands and businesses that are part of it, you know, gyms are just part of an ecosystem. So if you're a tourist that's come to London and staying in an Airbnb, if you've then like jumped across town and you're going to the Hackney Empire to see the theatre, if you then fancy a night out and you're going to Inferno's and you fancy a McDonald's after, you know, we're all part of an ecosystem that is creating a safer space for women in London. So we're proud to be part of that. We signed up because we exist to break down barriers for fitness for all, and that all part at the end of that mission is very important to us. So when we read the charter, there was a lot that we were already doing, but it does really set out parameters and you know, some really accessible and actionable things that brands and businesses can do. One of the best things it does is create a conversation internally, but also then it creates kind of a rally to the business to kind of all come together around a common theme. So whilst it has good executional value, I think it has really good internal value as well for businesses.
That's great, thanks Emily. Jodie, I'm going to come over to you next. We talk about a lot of the kind of train safe commitments that Pure Gym have made within the As Told by 51% guide that we released last year. And we know these are some great initiatives. So I'd love to hear what the kind of response has been like from your customers and workforce around some of the kind of actions that you've taken as part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll just start by giving a bit of background on Train Safe for those who might not be so aware. Train Safe is our safety commitment, providing a safe space for people in our gyms. This includes policies, procedures, things from cleanliness and hygiene, right through to safety and security. What we've done over the past year is build a harassment policy. We've trained all of our employees. This amounts to about 1,700 hours worth of training, which is fantastic. We've created a dedicated care team as well. We think it's so important that there is a specific channel where people can report harassment if they are a victim to it. It's also really important that we link that to a detailed case management system so that we can track, see how it's being consistent across the board, and make sure that we can improve and learn as a business. So that's just behind the scenes. We're doing a lot more, working with our members, working with our employee network groups to make that better. So I guess to your question, what has the reaction been? It's only relatively early days, right? Progress is key to this, but feedback has been quite positive for us. So our harassment policy made it clear that it's the same rules for everybody. We don't tolerate any form of harassment in our gyms. It's been really beneficial for helping both our members and our employees to understand what's deemed as acceptable behaviour and what's not. It just removes all of that ambiguity. There's no grey kind of area as there was before. This just helps us make it easier to spot and report unacceptable behaviour. And for our members, we believe it's been a huge step forwards for them to have this dedicated care team and safe space comms channel. Reporting an issue must be a very daunting experience, really hard, but by having this dedicated channel, it means that they know exactly who to go to and that their issue will actually be taken seriously. And I think that's very important. We have had really positive feedback from our employees on the training that we've given as well. As I said, sometimes issues aren't black and white, there is grey area. So it really helps us just help them navigate through any issues. It's interesting that we have taken action. So we've actually banned a third of members who have been reported for harassment. Now, just to call out and be clear, this is a very small number compared to the millions of members that we have. But I think as an industry, it's important to show that allegations will be taken seriously, and we will terminate memberships if people don't behave appropriately. There's a lot more that we're learning. There's a lot more to do, but we're looking forward to building on that, sharing some of our learnings with the industry, And then also learning from others as well. And back to kind of Tim and Emily's point, safety is very important to us, and signing up to things like the Knight Charter, making sure that we're learning as much as possible from others is really important. A joined up approach is always going to be more effective.
That's great. Thanks, Jodie, and really interesting to hear. Great to hear that it's been a positive reception so far, and great to see that there's kind of action following on the kind of procedures that are there, because I think that's also reassuring for everyone to hear that when these kind of things are brought into place, that it's not just for PR purposes, that there is real action kind of underpinning everything.
Absolutely.
So kind of a broader question to Jodie and or Emily, whoever wants to answer, but we're just keen to understand what are the kind of biggest challenges that you've maybe had regarding implementing any new policies and procedures related to women's safety, and from that, is there anything you might have approached differently in hindsight, hoping to maybe share some tips and nuggets for other people on the call who aren't as far along in this journey as you guys are?
Yeah, look, I'll just go first on this. I think, as I've mentioned, the whole process has been a real learning curve for us. We've been developing and trying a lot of these measures over time and fine-tuning as we go along. I wouldn't necessarily say that we would change anything, but it is by nature quite a sensitive and challenging topic to deal with, and we won't get it right every time. Something that we were really conscious of and remain really conscious of is not creating this fear culture. We're the gym where everybody's welcome. I'm sure that's the feeling that every gym or every operator wants to provide to the members. What we don't want is people being too afraid to even look at somebody, because sometimes, you know, when you're in the gym and you're working out yourself, you might clock eyes with somebody. Sometimes there'll be a mutual smile. Sometimes actually you might kind of look away. I think it's really important that we keep that community feel. There's no fear. So that's something that we'll be really conscious of. And one other thing was around our policies and setting out whether we had been too precise. If we say this is the different examples of harassment, was that being too precise in our policies? But actually, it's really helped our people to understand what's appropriate and what's not. So I think that's been quite a good learning for us.
I'd say that the biggest challenge is, I guess, appreciating the size and the scale of the issue that we're tackling. You know, there's a famous quote about change, which is that it's like really hard in the beginning and then a bit messy in the middle and really gorgeous at the end. So hopefully we're all waiting to get to that end point. Our teams have been really receptive to the Knight Charter. I guess the biggest challenge is momentum from here, because that rallied the business and the teams around that specific kind of agenda. And then what you don't want to do is like put it in a box on your desktop and wait for the next year. So I guess we kind of trying to continue that momentum. By now, we're using actually the practical guide. We use that for a gym intimidation meeting and brought different people from across the business together to just go through the guide and have an open conversation around like how we would judge ourselves or give ourselves a mark out of 1 to 10 on each of the kind of recommendations. And that led us to kind of review our own offering, but then pick out the bits where we think there's opportunity for improvement. And then beyond that, we're now looking at This Girl Can classes. So I think it's about momentum and finding the next thing to making sure that you just keep going.
Brilliant, and great to hear that the guide has been useful in kind of helping steer some of those team meetings as well. That's music to my ears. Another question for you both is whether, I suppose, in terms of implementing kind of changes through the commitments of the Knight Safety Charter and kind of protecting women's safety in general, do you feel like you've been able to attract new female members to your facilities through this, or do we think that's still kind of a bit further down the road?
It's hard to tell. We don't have any specific figures to suggest that, but member recruitment wasn't really the main purpose of this anyway. Creating these policies, we wanted to make sure that our employees felt safe and protected, and our members when they're in our gyms. So I think taking that step, doing this for the industry as a whole as well. So we know that the industry has a historic issue with women not feeling confident, not feeling safe, taking more of a vocal stance on the matter and sharing policy learnings. Hopefully we together can help drive sector-wide progress. And yeah, I think hopefully we'll have some positive member benefits out the back end of that, but it's not the main focus.
And then for us, I think I'd say the same. It's hard to create kind of a causation between, you know, signing a charter and then having an uptake in female membership. I think the whole is greater than its sum of its parts here. We need to be doing lots of things in lots of different channels to be able to kind of move the dial. We know that change takes time, and what we're trying to do here is change attitudes to health and fitness, which are really the hardest thing to change, which leads to behaviour change, which I guess we know at a human level just from personally, and also at just the macro societal level, how hard attitudes and behaviour change are. I guess in terms of looking at, you know, whether it supports retention or acquisition, but I guess we need to take a holistic view at the policies, procedures, campaigns, join journey, everything, looking at it through the lens of gender. And, you know, we've recently tried to pull that apart and develop specific working groups around individual parts of that. So if you look at kind of just breaking down your join journey, you know, how are you bringing in new members that maybe, you know, don't have as much experience with health and fitness, kind of the type of women that would go to this Girl Can classes, and making sure every part of that kind of onboarding experience is a welcoming piece of environment in terms of using like signposting or diverting to FAQ sections, training our staff in the gyms if anyone should have questions, etc., and providing support right through from the website, the join journey, the first interaction through the video in terms of your welcome video, when you get your PIN code, when you first turn up, every part of that needs to be welcoming and considered for women. So this is just kind of part of a holistic ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely, and completely agree with that approach. And I think quite similar to how we structure the guide. So it's good to know that you're taking a similar approach there. Tim, I'm going to come over to you for another question. In terms of obviously the kind of fitness and leisure centres have signed up more recently, but the charter's been going for a number of years. So wondering if there's any work with any other sectors who have were maybe more early adopters of the Women's Night Safety Charter that we could share with the fitness and leisure sector that might be relevant for them, or they could gain learning from.
Yeah, I think one thing we've missed during the pandemic is particularly we used to hold a Women's Night Safety Summit at City Hall every year, where we would invite signatories of the Charter to come along, and we would discuss developments in the Charter, but also to get people around a bunch of tables, all sharing that what they've done. You know that colleagues have already got their own campaigns going. TfL have got a campaign which they adopted from the rail delivery group kind of thing. So it's all about the best practice sharing, what might work for one sector that would work specifically across another without reinventing the wheel. You know, those events were really good at doing that. And, you know, we'd have people sat around the table. I remember there was the one summit we ran, we had someone from Uber sat on the same table as the Confederation of Lady Arm Wrestlers of Great Britain. And they were both having a really interesting conversation about the stuff that they were doing together, which, you know, completely different sectors. You know, a community sports group and, you know, one of the biggest transport providers that we know, but all, you know, real similarities that they can share across. So we're hoping to bring those events back during this next 12 months. And yeah, it'd be great, obviously inviting signatories from the sports and fitness sector to come along to those events as well. We've also just announced a sort of package of training and resources which we're developing with some new funding, which was why we were at the gym group in Battersea a few weeks ago. So yeah, we're hoping that that'll have really good uptake and be really beneficial to those that have signed up to the Charter as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And yeah, definitely look forward to hearing about those summits. We're kind of coming to the end of our time, so I'm just going to wrap up quickly. We know that the ultimate goal for us and why we wanted to put this guide together is to create safe and welcoming environments for all. And if we can do that for women and girls, we know it also helps tackle the gender activity gap, which is still quite prevalent. So I guess going back to Jodie and Emily, just from your perspective, what are the top 3 things that we as a sector or an operator could look at focusing on to help create that environment?
Go first on this one then. So I think we need more female PTs. So the industry needs to look like the customers we're trying to serve. I think we need better representation in advertising. That's not just for the health and fitness industry, that's for most all advertising, but there is a very useful page in the guide about what I guess our consumers are looking for in representation in advertising. And then I guess I think we probably need a sector response, like minimum standards that we all agree to as a sector, and a guiding thought. This is a very nice sector to be part of, and whilst we're all kind of competitors, I think we all understand that this is a bigger issue in terms of the societal benefits we can have if we get more women into health and fitness. So I think coming together as a sector to develop something like Ask for Angela, which the Met Police rolled out, could have scale and an impact rather than us all individually doing our own initiatives.
Yeah, and completely agree with Emily. The more that we can come together, share our learnings, the better. It's an industry-wide issue. Let's make it an industry-wide response. I think we need to continue to learn and hear from our members. We run sessions with our employee network groups who worked really well with our campaign team to create our women's weightlifting workshops. That came from an insight that women had a need. We simply solved that need, solved that problem for them. So let's hear more from women themselves. And then I think also we need to make sure that we're implementing a balance of measures that are focused on both protecting women, which is really important so they feel safe, but then also empowering them with the skills to boost their confidence. And I think that balance is really important because fitness is fun and we want to open that out to as many people as possible, as many women as possible.
That's great, thank you. Really helpful tips and nuggets there. I'm going to hand back to Hattie now, so we've run out of time on this conversation, but I know we've got time for some Q&A, so I'm going to hand back to Hattie, who will kind of chair that session.
Yes, lovely. Thank you all. That was really interesting conversation. It's great to hear kind of the openness and honesty as well from you all around it. So thank you. I know that Faye has been typing away answers to some of the questions, which are all very practical and pointing people in certain directions for this Girl Can classes information, which is great. So thank you, Faye. But a couple in here. I'm actually going to come to you, Claire, for the first one. One of the questions is, I'm surprised cultural and religious sensitivities are not listed as a barrier within the guide. Out of those six, I think out of the 6 key barriers we identified, just wanted to see if you wanted to expand on that, because I know it does come up in the guide.
Yeah, sure. I think kind of in our approach, we try to be as broad as possible and look at kind of common themes that women were facing. And I think cultural and religious sensitivities are part of some of those. What we do is we encourage facilities and operators to look at their local areas and their local communities and the kind of demographics that might be present there, and understanding if there might need to be specific tailoring in their offerings to suit specific kind of communities that they serve. So I think what we've tried to do is be more broad, and kind of understanding that if you're taking a representative approach and trying to overcome any sensitivities, that will then encompass the specifics, but to look and kind of do deeper dives into your own communities and where you can provide that tailoring will be individual to individual operators. So yeah, we don't go into that in too much specifics, but there's definitely we definitely still encourage kind of considering that when looking at how you are using representative imagery, representative messaging, and really thinking about the needs of your local community.
Brilliant, thank you, Claire. Question for Jodie. How do you communicate, I guess, the kind of what you were talking about around Train Safe and stuff to your members? What's the most effective route to kind of communicate?
It's a good question. We look at the process from the moment a member is on our website and joins. So we look at the onboarding process, make sure that people are really familiar with how we're looking after them when they're in our gyms, what to do should their experience not meet our expectations or their expectations. And then we also have visual prompts around the gym. So that's really important to us, but we know that we have to build on that, and we are working on getting more visibility into our gyms at the moment, more campaigns, and this is more focused around tackling the issues of harassment. We know when it comes to looking after our members, we have things like 24/7 CCTV, cleanliness and hygiene, all of the great stuff that we've put in place over the past year. We have also been really conscious to build on that, making sure that women feel safe, and that's something that we're going to continue to build on. We will do that over the coming months more in our gym, so watch this space.
Brilliant, thank you. And Emily, I might come to you for this one. So how do you manage engaging all staff in culture change when typically, and the person's put in their local gym anyway, there is often a high staff turnover within the gym?
It's a tricky question, isn't it, in the continual revolving door of staff, but I guess we have to work on our retention programs to drive engagement so that people want to stay in our facilities longer, both members and staff. We have a lot of people that have been here from, they tell me I started it when there were 16 gyms and we're now up to 200. So hopefully we don't have such a revolving door, because people love working at the gym group, but it's the nature of the industry that people kind of do leave and move around. So I think it's about your onboarding process, and then it's about your training, and then it's about continually refreshing your policies to make sure everyone has the same base level of understanding of what your process is in your company, and not just ever assuming that because people have been here a long time and they were trained 1 year that they kind of remember. So it's about continual refreshment of that process throughout your base and your organisation. And if you do have continual change, that just means you need to do it more more often.
Yeah,
you can never train people too much. There's not enough training in the world we could do to make sure that this is another elevated part of all our agendas.
Totally. Tim, I can see you've got your hand up. Feel free.
Yeah. Just on that point, Emily mentioned the Ask for Angela campaign, which the Met Police are rolling out, which we support from City Hall as well. I think part of that training, particularly in the licensed premises trade, bars, pubs, clubs, they do also have a high turnover of staff as well. I think one part of the training they did around that was to produce a little bit of paper collateral they give to everyone in induction packs when they start. So if they miss the training, so just simple bits of sort of collateral like that can actually help, and to keep, because you can't train everyone necessarily all the time. Although refreshers are always good, just to have something that people can just refer to every now and then, that little sort of aid memoir kind of thing, is also a really useful thing to try and put in.
Definitely. Sorry, I'm trying to keep on top of looking at these questions. One for Claire. Will this type of research data collection be carried out in other sporting contexts outside of gyms, e.g. cycling and swimming? So not sure if you want to answer that, Claire, from a This Girl Can perspective.
Yeah, sure. So we have a strategic partnership between Sport England and UK Active, which focuses on this sector specifically. In terms of other activities, that's kind of wider Sport England research, of which there is a kind of plethora of information that comes out and is released every year through our Active Live survey, which is done twice a year, that looks more specifically at kind of different activities. It's slightly beyond my particular role, so I'm not 100% sure of what is planned in the coming year, but This Girl Can release this new research on a fairly regular basis, and Sport England releases a huge amount. So I can put some links in the chat or in a follow-up email about where to access the latest data from Sport England's website, if that's helpful. But and can confirm what might be being done on those specific activities. But I know we have lots and lots of research that's kind of happening all year round.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jodie, this is probably a good one for you. So some gyms aren't manned by staff. With this in mind, how have you successfully ensured the policies have helped prevent harassment rather than just responding to it after it's taken place?
Sure, it's a really important question. I'm glad you've asked that. I think, first of all, safety has always been at the heart of what we do at Pure Gym. It has to be. We're a 24-hour business. So we have things in place already, such as 24/7 CCTV. We also have a two-way dialogue, so that if somebody is in need of help, immediate assistance, they can speak to somebody. If it's not an immediate help that they need, they can follow our comms channels. So we put these processes in place so that it can protect people when they're in our gyms. And I think that's very important to have people monitoring that, have our staff trained as well, and have the visibility for members so that they're aware of who is in the gym, who's around them, and what to do if they should find themselves in a certain situation. That becomes really important.
Brilliant, thank you. And I guess a question really for everybody, including probably Faye as well. How do you tackle the issue of some members arguing that women-only classes are actually discriminating?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from a This Girl Can classes point of view, it's not exclusively women only, it's a less active audience. And we know that the gender gap is more prevalent with females, and all of them. The marketing does speak to a female audience, but we do work with instructors and the training to support them with how to deal with if a male does come to the class, that the class is right for them. And it's, for us, it's about supporting the instructor to keep that reassuring, welcoming environment for everybody, and working with them so that it doesn't affect the atmosphere within the class.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to chip in on that?
Yeah, I think had a really interesting insight actually to share from our women's weightlifting workshops. They were a huge success, by the way. So demand completely outweighed capacity. So we're building on that and continuing to run them to learn a little bit more. But the interesting insight here is that 70% said that it was fine to come back for them if it was mixed gender. And I think that that's quite important to understand, that sometimes it is just learning that skill, learning that form. And that seemed to be the key thing that came out when we did our research. People went because they wanted to learn form to then help them build the confidence, not necessarily that it was deemed a male's area.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at the time, I don't think we've got time for any more, but what I will do is in the follow-up email that goes out will be mine and Claire's email address. Obviously we worked on the guide, so please, any of your questions that haven't been answered, feel free to send them to us and we will absolutely ping them on to the relevant person on the panel to get those answered for you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all our panel and speakers for your contribution today. I think that's been really insightful for a lot of people listening, including myself. So yeah, thank you very much. Cheers all.